2021, $350,000 in Greenville, South Carolina could usually buy you more home than it actually does today. But before we get all nostalgic, 2021 wasn't actually a walk in the park. That was the COVID real estate boom with low interest rates, low inventory, home selling in a weekend with multiple offers, bidding wars, and buyers often offering over asking price. Today, the math is a little bit hard. The payment might be a little bit higher, and $350,000 doesn't check all the boxes that it might have used to at one time. But today's buyers have something many didn't in 2021. That's a little bit more room to think. And honestly, that matters than more people realize. So this isn't a back then was better and today is worse kind of video. That's not really what real estate's about, to be honest. The truth is, both markets have been hard, just in very different ways. In 2021, buyers were fighting competition. Today, buyers are fighting affordability. Understanding that truly makes a difference, because the strategy that worked in 2021 isn't always going to be the strategy that works for you today. So today we're going to compare what a $350,000 budget meant for you during the 2021 boom versus what it means today in Greenville's market. By the end of this video, I want to help answer a better question than was 2021 better, because that's really too simple. The better question is, would you rather have had lower monthly payments and the bidding wars, or today's higher payment with more strategy, more room to negotiate, and to really think things through? That's going to be the real comparison. So let's picture this. It's 2021. You're thinking about buying a home in Greenville. Maybe you're renting. You're thinking, you know what? We're looking to buy soon. Maybe you're looking to relocate. Your budget's around $350,000. At that time, that number might have felt pretty strong. In a lot of areas, $350,000 could give you more space, maybe a bigger yard, a newer home, and even updates that some price points today can't give you. And because interest rates were so low, that monthly payment felt a lot more manageable. But here's the part that most people forget. Finding a home was one thing, winning the house was another. A good home would hit the market on a Thursday, showings would fill up by the next day, offers might be due within a few hours, and in no time you were celebrating or starting the process all over again. It was like speed dating, but with pre-approval letters and emotional damage. So when we compare 2021 to today, we can't just compare the price. We have to compare the whole buying experience. What $350,000 looked like in 21, let's start with what $350,000 looked like on paper back then. Lower interest rates gave buyers more purchase power, and that matters because monthly payment is actually what you live with. Not the list price, not the headline, not someone says about it online, the monthly payment. So even though home prices were rising, those low rates helped $350,000 feel a whole lot stronger. And in parts of Greenville and the surrounding upstate, that budget could often buy more house than it does today. Maybe that meant an extra bedroom. Maybe it meant a bonus room. Maybe it meant a better upgraded kitchen. Maybe the home was newer. So yes, from that perspective, $350,000 had more buying power. The buyers weren't just shopping in a calm market. They were shopping in a sprint. Inventory was extremely tight. The best homes didn't sit. And when something good came up, everybody knew about it. That meant buyers were often competing against multiple offers. And when competition gets intense, people start making decisions that they might ultimately regret, usually offering over asking price, shorter timelines, limiting repair requests, or waiving them altogether, feeling rushed before you even had time to think things through. That's why I don't like saying that 2021 was necessarily better. In some ways it was, but it was much harder for others. The payment looked better, but the process itself, not so much. Now let's bring it back to today. $350,000 is still a meaningful budget in Greenville and across the upstate as a whole, but I want to be clear about that. You can still find good homes in this price range and above. This isn't a nothing is affordable anymore type video, because honestly, that's not true. But the way $350,000 works today is much different. Maybe you can't get as much square footage as you used to. Maybe you need to be a little bit more flexible in your finishes and the yard size. Maybe you need to expand your search slightly more, or maybe you need to really decide what features matter most and which ones can wait. For example, if being close to downtown is the priority, you may have to compromise on size or updates. If you want more home for the money, you may look for other areas. And if you want newer construction, you really need to look at the full picture. The payment, the HOA, the lot size, the incentives, the commute, because a brand new kitchen is great, but if the drive makes you question every life choice on a Tuesday at 5:15 sitting in traffic, you need to factor that in too. And if you want a bigger yard, you may need to be open to a home that needs a little bit of cosmetic work. And that's not necessarily bad. It just means that today's buyers have to be a little bit more intentional. In 21, the challenge was speed. Today, the challenge is really clarity, because $350,000 doesn't mean the same thing everywhere in the upstate. In Greenville, that budget may look one way, and Greer could look completely different. Everyone wants the perfect house in the perfect location with the perfect payment and zero trade-offs. And honestly, that sounds amazing. And if you find that unicorn, please let me know, because I would love to see it too. Now let's talk about payment, because this is where the biggest difference usually shows up. A $350,000 home 5 years ago and a $350,000 home today may have the same price tag, but they do not have the same monthly payment. And that's the emotional shock for a lot of buyers. They think, I'm shopping at a reasonable price point. Why does this still feel so expensive? Because interest rates change the math. And when rates change the math, your buying power changes. Even your budget number stays the same. That's why I always tell buyers, don't start with the purchase price, start with the payment. What monthly payment feels comfortable for you? Not just what technically gets approved and what may show up on paper, but what's livable. Because you still need to enjoy life. You still need to be able to go out to dinner, enjoy downtown, and furnish the house. And you still want savings, and you want room for repairs and vacations. You still need room to breathe. So before you fall in love with the home at $350,000, know the monthly payment, know the principal and interest, the taxes, the insurance, HOA, if there is one, utilities, maintenance. That number matters more than the list price. And once you know your comfort zone, the home search becomes a lot more productive. Where today's market gives buyers an advantage and where things get interesting, even though affordability may be a little bit harder, the buying process can be healthier in some ways. But a great home that's priced correctly can still move quickly. But compared to the peak chaos of the boom, many buyers today may have more room to make a thoughtful decision. They may have time to schedule a second showing. They may be able to ask for repairs and negotiate some of those things. They can ask for seller concessions in some cases. They may even have time to compare homes instead of feeling like they're rushed and they have to make an offer while they're sitting in the driveway. And that matters, because a calmer decision is honestly a better decision. Today's opportunity isn't always obvious at first glance. Sometimes it's the home with bad photos but great bones. Sometimes it's the home that's been sitting because the seller started too high. Sometimes it's new construction home where the builder's offering closing cost helps or maybe even a rate buy down. That's where buyers are still winning today, not by chasing the same home as everyone else, but by seeing what others are missing. Sometimes the best opportunity isn't always the prettiest listing online. Sometimes it's the one that everybody scrolled past because the photos look like they were taken with a potato or a flip phone from the 90s, but I say that with love. What should a smart buyer do right now with a $350,000 budget? First, get clear on the top 3 priorities, not your top 10, your top 3. Because almost everyone really wants the same thing: the good location, a nice kitchen, enough bedrooms, the big yard, low monthly payment, no repairs, great commute, good resale value. Of course you want all those things. That's normal. But the market may not hand you all of those things at $350,000. So you have to know what matters most. Maybe it's the payment. Maybe it's the location or low maintenance. Maybe it's square footage or the overall yard size and school zones. Once those priorities are clear, the search gets a lot easier, because now you're not asking, is this a perfect house? You're asking, does this house solve the right problems for us? And that's a much better question, honestly. It's a much less stressful way to shop. Compare the areas before you eliminate them. Look at Greenville, look at Greer, look at Simpsonville, look at Easley and Travelers Rest. Check into Spartanburg and Anderson. Not because you have to buy in all those places, but because comparison is going to give you more context and clarity. And that clarity can actually help you make better decisions overall. You might realize Greenville is still worth the trade-off, and you might realize that Greer gives you a better commute than you need. And that's not lowering your standards, that's learning the market. And learning the market before you buy is a whole lot better than learning the market after you close. Because after you close, the house is yours, and so that's your problem. Don't ignore homes that need some updates. I'm not talking about serious issues. I'm not saying you should buy someone's problem, but paint, flooring, lighting, landscaping, older countertops, those things can make buyers scroll right past a home, but actually it could still be a really strong fit. So maybe the kitchen isn't your dream kitchen today, but the location works. Maybe the carpet is old, but the floors plan is right for you guys. Maybe the photos are terrible, but once you get there, the house feels a whole lot better in person. The goal isn't to settle. The goal is to recognize value before everyone else does. Because sometimes a home doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to have the right bones, the right location, and enough potential to make sense. A little pain is flexible, but a bad commute, that's a little harder to slap a fresh coat of Sherwin-Williams on. So here's the real takeaway. $350,000 in Greenville, South Carolina is still a good budget. It's still meaningful. It can still buy a great home, but it doesn't operate the same way it did in 21. Back then, buyers had lower rates and often felt they had more purchase power, but they also had intense competition, low inventory, bidding wars. Pull up to a home and it was like a used car lot, and there was a lot of pressure to move fast. Today, buyers have higher payments, more trade-offs, but they may also have room to negotiate, more time to think. So the real question isn't, was 21 actually better? The better question is, what kind of market are we in now, and how do we make the best decision inside of that market? Because every market has a strategy. You just have to know which one you're in. So I want to hear from you. What's your home buying budget right now? And where are you looking? Greenville, Greer, Simpsonville, Easley, Travelers Rest maybe, Spartanburg, Anderson, somewhere else in the upstate of South Carolina. Drop your budget and location in the comments, and I'll tell you what the price range realistically looks like in today's market. And if you're trying to figure out whether $350,000 is truly enough for the type of home that you want, that's exactly the kind of question we help buyers work through every day. Not just what you can buy, but actually what makes the most sense. We appreciate you stopping by. We'll see you on the next one.